evening and welcome to this regular session of the Grant County Council. Tonight the prayer will be led by Mr. Poling with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Scott. If you would stand.
Lord Jesus, we ask you tonight to guide this council, lead us where we're supposed to go, watch over us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. If you would, Auditor, please do the roll call.
Sorry about that. Second. Scott?
Here.
Connor?
Here.
Hicks?
Here.
Perez?
Present.
Poling?
Here.
Lemming?
Here.
Middlesworth?
Here. We have a quorum and we're all accounted for. Thank you. You should have at your table this evening, as well as electronically, received the regular session minutes from May the 17th, 2023. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Scott to approve the Grant County Council regular session minutes of May the 17th, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda this evening is the auditor's report.
I have nothing to report. The health department, or the health fund is still staying stable. The general fund is still staying stable. I do have in front of you tonight the Form 22s that show the spring settlement and the distribution to each of the funds. So if you have any questions.
Was there a percent of collected?
I don't have the percent. It was more than half. I do know that.
More than half.
Mhm.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the auditor's report? Hearing none, we'll move on. We'll start with the new business. I want to remove item K from the agenda. The Swayze Library no longer needed us to do approval for them. So the first item under new business would be the second reading of the local income tax structure. At your table this evening, you have a resolution, which would be resolution number 1-2023, and the resolution of the Grant County Council of Grant County, Indiana, concerning the abatement to county income tax. As you see, the figures are what was passed at the last meeting. Also at your table this evening, you should see the ordinance modifying the local income tax rate. Essentially, they're the same thing. Would you like to add anything?
Right. In preparation for tonight's meeting, we essentially used the 2018 ordinance and resolution as templates. On the resolution, you'll notice that there's some paragraphs at the beginning of the document that then talks about an ordinance that is then spelled out in that same document. That is in the same ordinance that is in the actual document titled the ordinance. I'm not sure why the council did both a resolution and an ordinance in 2018. My only thought is that if this were to pass at the tax council, then if the ordinance has already been adopted by this body, it'll become effective upon the passage of those 51 votes at the tax council. So I think that's probably why both were done. The statute doesn't require it to be done that way, but in keeping with how it was done in 2018, that's why we drafted it that way.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the ordinance or resolutions? I think the attorney would like to keep them separate as far as motions.
Correct.
So we would want a motion for the resolution number 1, 2023, with the proposed lit rates. The Coit shares at 1.3%, seated at 0.25%, special purpose at 0, PSAT at 0.2%, property tax relief at 0.75%, public safety at 0.05%, which leaves the total the same at 2.55. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion to pass resolution number 1-2023 at this time.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Poling to pass resolution number 1, 2023, a resolution of Grant County Council of Grant County, Indiana concerning amendment to the county income tax. Any questions or comments from the members?
I'd just like to say I appreciate your efforts, Mr. President, in addressing this, and Mr. Bates as well. Our hands were tied a little bit because of the state and forcing us to revamp what our shares are. I know it's not an easy task. I'm thankful for Mr. Bates that he can make sense of all these numbers and at least put us in a position that benefits the entire county. You know, a little more so than what we've ever had before, but I'd just like to echo my appreciation towards your efforts and Mr. Bates's efforts in preparing this.
Any other questions or comments from the members? If there are none, I'd entertain a public input. If you want to come to the podium and state your name and your address, and I'll allow 2 minutes.
All right, good evening, Council. Adrienne Hammonds with the Growth Council. I currently serve as the president of the Growth Council, and I wanted to share some examples that demonstrate how invaluable we are to Grant County. Growth Council is a local economic development organization, a LEDO, and this means that we facilitate the award of potentially millions of dollars for initiatives like Ready 1.0 and Ready 2.0, which is currently in progress. And we are holding workshops in the community on that. Walmart Distribution Center was a 5-year project for the Growth Council. This investment of time led to Walmart DC having an annual estimated payroll of $30 million and generating $765,000 annually for lit revenue right here in Grant County. In nearly all of our initiatives, we work with you. Like the Growth Council, you are vital to business attraction, expansion, and retention. We also bring you educational opportunities like broadband, and also on July 26th, we welcome you to attend a local elected official dinner featuring AIM. And at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to our executive team member, Chuck Bingert.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for giving us a couple minutes to just chat with you. Appreciate all the work that you all do, and we recognize and understand that it's not an easy job. You've got a tough task to try to go through a lot of tough numbers and to provide services for extremely important departments and services throughout the county, and so we appreciate that good work. As Adrienne mentioned, the Growth Council's been in business for many, many years, as you all know, and has been involved in a lot of measures that have brought jobs and have brought tax base into the community and continue to support that tax base. And obviously, with just a few seconds here, can't get into a lot of detailed information, but just looking quickly at the numbers, and please respectfully, I'm not looking quickly at numbers that you guys have spent hours and hours looking at, so please don't misunderstand that. But just looking at the numbers and doing some very rough math, it looks like there could be some opportunity if the central dispatch element was rather than allocated 0.2, that there could be an allocation of 0.18 that would still allow the money that the Growth Council had been receiving for funding and still fully fund the budget of the central dispatch and $300,000 or so in addition to that. So whatever considerations you could give to us, we would appreciate it, and we would continue to do the very best job that we can to support the county and to support businesses and to do what we can to attract more business in the future. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Again, if you want to address the body, this is the time for public comment. I'll allow 2 minutes. Hearing none.
I have a question. Chuck, I had a chance to talk to Chuck this morning about this issue. Tell us again, this proposed change that you would offer, how much would that actually give to the Growth Council?
Again, by adjusting the 0.2% to 1.8, that would give essentially 126,939, I think was the exact number. But that would allow that money to be available for the Growth Council, which is what the council here has been generous enough to provide for us in the past few years. So a minor adjustment there, but obviously your goal is to make sure that central dispatch and those important services are fully funded. It looks like, though, again, very quick looking at the numbers, that there would still be $300,000 or so in excess of what it looks like the dispatch budget would be. So it looks like there could be a possibility that both could be funded and those dollars could be allocated across those entities. So
I'll say I had some conversations with Mr. Hicks, and obviously that we're moving that percent to the seated. So, and if the commissioners wanted to, and this body agreed to it during budget time, they could allocate funds to the Economic Growth Council to serve that purpose. But as far as reducing the 0.2, it'd be ill-advised due to the fact that there's not going to be enough cushion later down the road when it comes to central dispatch. And obviously, talking to Mr. Hicks today, an additional, just expected $130,000 in upkeep, that above and beyond what we're paying now for tower maintenance and software updates as far as the tower. So that would be ill-advised to change any of the percents. I think that if you wanted to allocate funds to the Growth Council, that would be through the, am I saying that right, COIT shares. That's something the commissioners could do at budget time. It would come to this body, but again, that be ill-advised.
Well, I would just say, I understand why you say it would be ill-advised, because there's a lot of work's going into these numbers. I can appreciate that. But I've thought a lot about this, and I think the Growth Council is the place to go. If somebody is wanting to start a business, they come to town, they have to have a quarterback to come to. And I think if we don't fund the Growth Council at this minimal amount that they're asking, I think it's like giving up hope for economic development in Grant County. And I would like to see us support them. They have done a lot of good. I mean, their work and part in developing business, big business in Grant County is evident. Just when you drive out of town, you go right by all these places that they've been a part of. So for that reason, that's going to affect my vote on whether to approve this or not. And if it's not possible to accommodate them in what we're doing tonight with this ordinance, then I would like to see in the future us find a way to fund them. Because, if I'm getting ready to come to Grant County and start a business, who do I go to? If you don't have the Growth Council, well, you're going mayor's office to mayor's office it's a hodgepodge. I give up and walk away, and I go someplace where they have their ducks in a row and a quarterback that can run them through the process. So, that's my thought on that.
How much will go into the potential for the COVID shares for the growth council if the commissioners approve? What was that number again? Do you remember?
The dollar amount,
Mhm.
I want to say it was an additional, what, 300?
364,000 or somewhere around there, I believe.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was more like 120.
I don't have any figure in front of me. I just know that's,
Trying to recall from memory, but I'm the same, assuming there was 300 and something that we were talking about when Mr. Bates was here.
Mr. President,
yeah.
is it all right if I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I just wanted to share some numbers. Larry Twigger, President of Gas City Council, also a member of the Growth Council. To maybe help you with some of the numbers on the central dispatch issue, the current central dispatch budget is $2,009,198. That's being funded by $464,000 from the city of Marion, $180,000 from the city of Gas City, $2,500 from city of Jonesboro, and the county, I assume, is paying the balance of that, which would come to $1,362,690. If you change that to, well, first of all, with a 10% increase at 0.18, it would generate $2,210,190. So, excuse me, that is more than enough. Well, let me back up. I borrowed somebody's papers, so. Okay. You're gonna have an excess of about 300,000 at 0.18 for central dispatch. If there's no increase. With an increase, with a 10% increase, you're about 70,000 to the good at 0.18. So my suggestion would be is to amend the ordinance to 0.18, reinstitute to 0.101 for the Growth Council. It's revenue neutral for the city of Marion and the city of Gas City. So the 0.18 more than funds. If somebody's got a calculator,
I don't think you've seen all the numbers, Larry. I know.
I took these off the sheet that Darren gave me.
Yeah, I know there's an additional $130,000 that's coming before this board.
Well, that's what I'm saying, even with a 10% increase.
Even with raises, and this body is not gonna be able to change that 2% without the tax council again, so that we.
But if you amend that tonight, then you give the rest of the tax council the opportunity to vote on it.
But the other way of doing it is if seated or has the opportunity, these commissioners can fund it the same way.
But we don't have a guarantee of that from the commissioners. I'm speaking for the Growth Council now, not as a president of Gas
I
City
understand.
Council.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of numbers.
I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I thought there might be some confusion with the numbers. But even with a 10% increase, 10% increase in the central dispatch budget's $201,000. And if you take 126,933 times 0.18, that's more than 2,010,000.
My understanding is from Mr. Bates when he was here a month and a half ago is not about your numbers, it's about the location of the numbers. They're coming up something called special purpose.
This doesn't affect
Which is
any
what
of
the
that.
state is telling us we're not allowed to do legally.
Well, the state, that comment's wrong because we contacted Baker Tilly and Ice Miller, and both of them assured us that there is no state statute that requires any change in the res credit at this time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I'll confirm his last comment because I called my own that we use for Upland, and they confirmed that they were aware of no such thing either. Similar concerns that we talked about last time. I mean, I know the commissioners do have the ability, but based on what I gathered at my first meeting, I mean, and I don't sound like I'm beating the same old drum, but we're the fiduciary body, but we approved a bottom number, we're approved bottom numbers, but it's not our job discern how the management of those numbers, and by doing this without really being that transparent about it, or the communication about it, or being more transparent as we should have been on a decision this big, it's.
Well, you know, Mr. Perez, you was late to the table. We've had plenty of meetings. We had a joint meeting.
And I've had more conversations in 1 month of doing this than I can tell you just about anybody else has with all the people who were affected by
You
this.
know, we had a joint meeting with the Gas City. We had a joint meeting with the City of Marion. We had a special meeting, and you come to the table late, so.
I had no attendance at the Grove Council meetings.
All the members that were there, you want me to name the members that were part of those meetings, that were part of the Grove Council?
You're welcome to do so.
I agree, it was a transparent process. I mean, we're bound by, I'm sure Mr. Meeks can echo this, we're bound by law to certain procedures. All of this is public, all with notice. It's disingenuous to say it's transparent.
Well, I corrected myself in saying it should have been more transparent on the size of the decision that it is.
Well,
Short of the money,
glass behind me is transparent. I don't know how you make it more transparent.
short of the money we spend on employees and professional development, the only money we spent is $127,000 out of, what's the total budget number, bottom line now? That's what we spend on that's the only money we spend that is any kind of return on investment. Everything else we spend is just to maintain. If we just spend money on just in maintaining, we're just maintaining a slow demise.
Ironically, we're both speaking in support of the Growth Council, but I have to say, as being part of the process to date on this, I find it a little offensive to say that we were in a transparent process. This did not take place in a back room with people smoking cigars. It happened in accordance with public notice, notices posted on the door, etc.
I apologize if I was misinformed, but I've heard no alternative.
Any other questions or comments from the members?
Did you get that dollar amount? Were you able to find?
Yeah, it was 126.
Roll call, please.
Lemming.
Aye.
Poling.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Connor.
No.
Hicks.
Aye.
Perez.
No.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Motion carries. So again, before you this evening, we have the ordinance that's modifying the local income tax rates. The Kuwait shares to 1.3, the seeded to 0.25, the special purpose to 0, the PSAP to 0.2, property tax relief to 0.75, public safety to 0.05, which keeps the total the same at 2.55. Again, this isn't a decision that any of us take lightly. A lot of work's been put into it with the consultant Darren's recommendations. Again, the 0.2 to public safety is not, it's not a one-year approach. It's a long-term approach. I know there's things in the pipeline that everybody's not privy to when it comes to dollar amounts and information that's could be used to help, you know, Mr. Twilliger and have more information. But I think this is the best decision for this body and for the citizens of the county. Is there a motion?
Ordinance 1.
Ordinance 1.
I'll make a motion, Mr. President, to accept ordinance 1. I would also say that we are not 100% on this as far as the tax council. We're just one piece of it, so it still goes to Marion and Gas City, so they still have a lot of control over whether this goes through or not. We've done this before, and sometimes they pass, sometimes they don't. So we're just the start of the process.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Poling to approve ordinance number 1-2023, an ordinance modifying the local income tax rates. Any questions or comments from the members? Public input? Roll call, please.
Fleming,
Aye.
Poling,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Connor,
No,
Hicks,
Yes.
Perez,
No.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on, the next item under new business, County Commissioners Mark Bardsley with an additional appropriation regarding ARPA funds.
Mr. President, Mr. Bardsley couldn't be here tonight, so you guys get the rookies, so.
Well, good evening.
Good evening. I believe I've met most of you gentlemen, for those of you that I haven't met. My name is Ron Stewart. I'm the new commissioner for District 3, filling the seat replacing the seat that Mr. Burton was previously in. So I'm here tonight representing the commissioners to request an additional appropriation of $2.2 million to the ARPA fund. And I believe in your packets you have in there what we're asking for. I'll do the best I can to answer any questions that you have. Mr. Davis is on with us from Envoy. And Mr. Davis, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. He's going to jump in and he's going to help us out with the chiller and the boiler project. He knows a lot more about that than I do. But just to give you a little bit of information on what we're asking as far as the ARPA funds, the projects. We're asking for $500,000 for the airport sewer and water project. This is to assist them to get water and sewer from Marion city limits to the airport. As many of you know, we have a fantastic airport out there, but they are trying to raise money to get sewer and water out to the airport. We're also asking for $200,000 to assist Mill Township Fire Department. And this is to assist with the renovation of the volunteer fire department. The renovations that we're looking at helping to work on are 2 vehicle bays, a men's and women's locker room, fire chief office, and a meeting area. We're also asking for $200,000 for the Drainage Board General Drain Improvement Fund. And from what I understand on that, we have there's several drainage and ditch projects that's coming up down the road that we're just kind of running out of money, that the county's running out of money on. So they're looking for $200,000 to be earmarked for that. And then the last one, the big one, is $1.2 million for the jail annex chiller and boiler project. Mr. Davis, if you want to chime in on that a little bit and let the council know a little bit what we got going on with that, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my name's Dale Davis. I'm planning director with Envoy. We're helping the county as owner's technical representative, guiding through some of these processes. So we've been looking at the building conditions of various county offices, and one of the first things we noted was the chiller, so essentially the air conditioner for the jail and the annex building that you're currently in. That's a shared unit. It powers both buildings, and it's at the end of its functional life. We recommend, with long lead times and just the age of the equipment and the cost of any anticipated repairs to that unit, we recommend going for a replacement as soon as possible. That uses an outdated refrigerant. If we were to have to recharge that unit, honestly, we could be looking at a new unit. It's just prohibitively expensive to work on a machine of that age. And then the boilers, so there's two sets of boilers that again serve both the jail and the building that you're in, the annex. There's two in tandem that serve domestic hot water, and there's two that serve the heating for the buildings. So one of the four boilers has failed, it's no longer functioning. The other, and then in the other pair of boilers, one has developed a leak and is showing signs that it's at the end of its life. We are required to have redundancy in those systems, being that it's a jail. So again, funds are needed to replace both sets of those boilers. So that is what the appropriations for, is to start the process on getting those 5 pieces of equipment replaced.
Any questions or comments from the members?
Is it 1.2 or 1.3?
For the chiller, it's 1.3. I'm sorry, I was going on earlier, 1.3.
Is this the total cost?
So this is based on cost estimates that we have. We seek to enter into a build, operate, transfer agreement that would set our maximum price for these projects. That is essentially our best estimate of the equipment at current price. We want to enter into the build, operate, transfer agreement because it'll allow us to do this correctly. Whenever we go into these types of projects, there's the chance that equipment might not talk to each other. It's rarely as simple as unplug one and plug a new one in. This gives us the opportunity to work with our vendor, work with our design, with their chosen designer, and make sure we're getting everything we need up front. So the short answer is yes, this is our estimated all-in cost, and it will allow us to move down the path with selecting a partner to design and install this for us.
So this is the maximum price it can cost us?
Correct. That's what we're seeking today.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the members? Obviously, as all the members know, ARP funds have certain guidelines that have to be followed, and they've changed them several times now. All this you've passed at the commissioners meeting to be in your plan development.
Yes, sir.
And the consultant has signed off on, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Jim Higgins.
Yeah.
Jim Higgins. I've seen the last email, I hadn't seen the confirmation email.
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Any other questions or comments? Again, the commissioners have the ability to make the appropriations, develop the plan, but this body can say no to any or all of the items. No question about it. I think that the jail annex chiller and boiler project at the 1.3 million is definitely needed. It's a no-brainer. The other ones I struggle with just because I've been involved with them. The sewer airport for 500,000. My family flies. We use the airport. I question that if they do, we fund sewer and water to the airport. If you are within so many feet of a sewer line, you have to be hooked up. And then what would that do to annexation? The houses along to the airport, and would be the sense being, shooting ourselves in the foot, so to speak, by using those funds. The Middle Township Fire, 100% in favor of all the county fire units, any of the fire departments. You start singling out fire departments, the 200,000. Then next week you're going to have Center Township and all the other townships. Is there a way maybe we could divide, $25,000 to all the fire departments. And then when it comes to the drainage improvement projects at the $200,000, I know that part of the regulations or guidelines are that it has to be, you know, a project you're doing to pay for it. And I'm questioning, is there a project with that money that, you know, that's gonna be paid for? So I'm not sure I have all the information there, but that's my opinion.
The way I understand that, and Ms. Auditor can maybe help me out with this, but we earmark that money right now, and then as projects come up down the road, we don't take the 200,000 and give it to the drainage board.
Yeah, I mean, I know it can't be transferred like that. It has to be a project and paid out.
Yeah, Mr. Bardsley, when I talked to him, he rattled off off the top of his head 2 or 3 different projects that are in immediate need. I can't tell you what those are, but yeah.
A couple of dumb questions. Remind me what ARPA stands for again.
American Rescue Plan.
That's okay. After a full day of practicing law, I have a lot of acronyms floating in my head.
I understand that, same in banking.
And where does the money start and what fund does it end up in? This says to ARPA fund. Where are the funds coming from?
Yeah, I'm gonna have it hopefully.
It's an additional appropriation within an ARPA fund.
Oh, within ARPA.
Yes.
Thank you. That
Yes.
answers my question.
Is that?
Yes, that's
Thank you.
And I believe there's,
I'm sorry,
is there 10 million?
there's 12.7 with 2.5 allocated to Gas City for their project if needed.
So these are the kinds of things that ARPA was meant to be spent on, obviously, or we couldn't spend it on.
Correct.
Well, it's changed throughout the starting of the process.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in the beginning, you know, Gas City was really the only shovel-ready project, and then, you know, things have changed. And, you know, the guidelines have opened up to allow some other projects.
Ready for a motion?
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to say real quick, I like your idea, Shane, about the, allocating funds to the volunteer fire departments. $25,000 or whatever that amount would be, especially to the smaller township fire departments. That would be a nice shot in the arm for those departments. I don't know where we go with that. I know you would, Mr. Connor, you brought up, I think last meeting, about all the volunteer departments we have and maybe look at combining some of those. That thought, I don't know where we go with it at this point, but I really like the idea of being able to allocate a certain dollar amount to every one of our volunteer fire departments.
After that meeting, I forget who it was, but somebody was educating me on that issue about there being, what's it called, inter-department agreements or
Interlocal agreements.
interlocal agreements. And it may not be quite as simple as I was thinking. You know, I'd like to see, you know, one countywide fire department and to make the funds more efficient, but it's not as easy as it sounds to do that. But I also like the idea.
Yeah, no, beyond that, I mean, just whatever that dollar amount would, that would be money well used for, I know, several of these township fire departments, so.
We can take a look at that, yeah. Look into that, see what that would come out to be. Yeah. I think it's good. I think that's a great idea, actually.
I have mixed feelings because Mill Township serves District 4 and I live in Jonesboro and I'm Jonesboro's attorney, so their volunteer fire department could use $25,000, I guarantee you that, so.
Well, they reached out to us because they do have this renovation project going on. It's pretty sizable, so that's why you have what you have in front of you now. However, what Mr. Middlesworth and Mr. Scott has suggested makes a lot of sense as well, so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No.
You were ready to make a motion.
Any other questions or comments from the members?
So if we approve this with the $200,000 requested for Mill Township, are we scuttling being able to give some to the other departments as well?
Well, again, the ARPA funds are the commissioners' pot, so to speak, but it takes us working together.
So we could approve this and say, hey, why don't you come back to us and give some money to, we can do both, in other words, theoretically,
If the commissioners agree, if they put it in their plan.
if we encourage you.
I think you'd have support on that.
I don't know, I like to see that forethought of what we're talking about, like if everybody needs new radios or if we're gonna do it across the board because of that reason. That'd be my thought on that, just to get an idea.
Would those departments need to come to the commissioners then and request?
That I'm not sure, Mr. Connor. I know that we've had a little bit of discussion about those things already. So it could be, well, I don't want to say unless I know for sure. So I can definitely check into that for you.
I'm assuming it never hurts to ask.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you letting us put you on the spot.
Yeah.
She never told us you were the new guy.
I know. Well, I was told I get a 6-month grace period, so I still have about a week left after, yeah. So I can play off as being new for a while.
Or it could be if we approve the 200,000 tonight, then every fire department's gonna ask for $200,000 from here on out. Which may be needed, who knows? I'm not saying it's not, but chances are.
But
we're gonna
and
see that, but.
and to your point, sir, the reason that this has gotten to you this far is just because of the need of all the things that they are doing out there at the volunteer fire department, with everything that they got going on. Quite honestly, if somebody just came up to us and said, hey, we need $200,000, we don't really know what we're gonna do with it yet, but you give this to Mel, we tell them no, if that makes sense. But again, going back to what you folks said, I'm not trying to ride the fence here, I see your point. I think I know how much $25,000 would help the smaller fire departments. I live in Fairmount, so I know what that would do.
If we would table that request for 30 days, give you enough time to kind of fill that out and check with the departments. And it's not gonna be enough time to formulate a plan, I don't think, for all those departments, but at least it would get us on track maybe for a better.
Yeah, and Mr. Millsworth might be able to jump in here, but you could approve it as it is, but take out the Mill Township at this point, and then we can come back to you. We can come back to you in a month with possibly with a new proposal.
Or 2 months.
2 months.
I'm thinking about, we're not gonna have a July meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
So you're good with the table and come back?
I'm good with whatever you gentlemen decide.
I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we table, I don't know if we can do this all together, I'll just do it separate. I'll move to table the Mill Township Fire Administration Complex request. Allow the commissioners to do a little bit of research and report back to us regarding the other volunteer fire departments.
Second.
I have a motion to table Mill Township Fire Administration Complex, 200,000 from Mr. Scott, a second from Mr. Connor. Any other questions or comments from the members? Public input? Come to the podium and state your name and your address, and I'll allow 2 minutes.
I'm Deborah Kane, Center Township trustee, and I appreciate the thought about this because we do, in fact, I came to the commissioners just this week to speak of who can I approach to get this funds for our radios, because we are required to update our radios, and it is costing my budget a lot of money, and it'd be nice to be able to replace some of the funds so I can help citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Roll call, please.
Scott,
Aye.
Connor,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Perez,
No.
Poling,
No.
Lemming,
Aye.
Middlesworth.
What was the vote?
5-2.
So it passed.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion that we approve the rest of the request to the airport, drainage projects and jail.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Perez to approve the additional appropriations within ARPA, airport sewer water project in the amount of $500,000. The drainage project for general drain improvements in the amount of $200,000. And the jail annex chiller and boiler project, $1,300,000. Any other questions or comments from the Miller members? Can speak. Public input? Roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Perez,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Pauling,
Yes.
Lemming,
No.
Middlesworth.
Yes. What was the vote there? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's all I got.
To be clear, just one question. So to table the Mill Township request, are we looking at something when I go back to the other commissioners as far as getting a piece to all the volunteer fire departments in addition to the 200,000? Or are we kind of cool on the 200,000 for the Mill Township? Can you give me a little direction there on what you're thinking?
To be fair, 25,000 to all of them, and not the 200,000.
Gotcha.
Because if you do, they're just gonna all come at you.
I think that's a good point, Jay.
But again, I mean, there has to be, it can't be just transfer funds. I mean, they gotta have
They have to have something.
something,
Yes.
I mean, to present to you,
Right.
just because of ARPA regulations.
Correct.
I'd like to know how many there are.
Pardon me, sir.
How many
Just with
are
the
there?
fire department to use.
Yes. Okay. That gives me some direction, so. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Mr. President, could I have to say, the rules of procedure say that for additional appropriations to pass on the first reading, it has to be unanimous.
That's right, sorry about
So
that.
I didn't know if this was different because it's ARPA funds instead of general funds, but the rules of procedure do say for additional appropriations,
That's right,
which is
Right.
entitled additional appropriations.
yeah, good catch. So I guess you'll be bringing that back then in either July or August, but,
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
okay. Bring it
Okay.
to the second reading.
Second reading. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Attorney. Yes.
Thank you, Nathan.
Next item, under new business, item C, County Sheriff's Department, Garcia with the salary ordinance amendment, school resource officer and work crew. Good evening, Sheriff.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight to request additional appropriations for a school resource officer and a work crew / work crew. I apologize if I sound a little tired tonight. We have been busy. As you know, we did have a homicide in the county. It's good to report that we have 2 of the suspects in jail. Our team worked hard to find 2 of the suspects, and we're currently going to locate the 3rd suspect. So hopefully by the end of the night, the 3rd suspect will be in jail. So if I sound tired tonight, that's part of the reason we have been pretty busy. Tonight, I do want to talk a little bit about the school resource officer / work crew position. The safety of our kids obviously is very important to me, and I'm sure it's important to you. And in the last 10 years, we've had approximately 11 school shootings. Within the last probably 20 years, even some that have kind of hit home here in Indiana. Obviously, the most recent one was in Nashville, Tennessee, which isn't too far from here, where we had 6 children killed and then 6 others that were injured. If you remember, in 2018, Noblesville West Middle School in Noblesville had a school shooting there. Luckily, no one was killed in that. in that shooting. So one of my goals coming into office at the first of the year was to try to get a school resource officer in every school district in the county. And I know our financial situation as a county, so I've been trying to think out of the box on how we could do this without actually costing the county additional funds. So we've collaborated with Oak Hill School District and with Gas City to create a position that will be partially funded by Oak Hill School, and the rest of it would be funded by Gas City. The officer would actually work as a school resource officer for the school district during the school year. And then in the summer times when school is out, they will work as a work crew boss to assist Gas City in different projects that they have. So with, like I said, out of the box thinking, we were able to get them on board, and obviously with your approval to create this new position, we can pay for this position with those two entities being a part of it, and it would cost the council zero money to make this happen. So this would provide security for our kids in the Oak Hill District. Obviously, as we know, response time is very important when you're talking about active shooters, so that would put someone in that area. Grant County, I've learned since the first of the year, is a very, very big county, and when you're limited on how many officers you have on the road, depending on where they are at the time of the school shooting was to occur, it could take quite some time for first responders to arrive. So my goal is to have one in each district. We currently have an agreement with Eastbrook Middle School, or Eastbrook School District, where they pay a portion of the salary for a deputy to be out there in their schools. So I'm trying to get one at Oak Hill, and my future goal is to get one at Madison Grant, sometime talk to them to see if we can come up with a way. So we're requesting for this position to be approved. The numbers that we have, I think the total salary for the position is $73,691, and that covers everything, salary, benefits for the officer. And we would, obviously, if you approve this, we would do a memorandum of agreement with Oak Hill and a contract with Gas City, and they would pay those funds the way Marion pays for their work crews and the way Eastbrook pays for their school resource officer.
So we wouldn't be paying, as it says here, the insurance, life insurance, FICA, none of it's coming out of the county?
None of that will be coming out of the county.
Okay, but they'd still be considered employees of the Grant County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, it'd be similar to what Marion does with their work crew, where they actually pay the city the salary and all the benefits, but they're employees of the Grant County Sheriff's Office. The same way with our school resource officer at Eastbrook. They only pay a portion of it, and the county actually does pay part of that salary in that agreement.
What about liability insurance? Is that the part of this that's being paid by Gas City and Oak Hill?
Well, they will fall under the sheriff's office, so it would be just like any of our deputies that are working the road.
So just out of curiosity, not that I expect you to do this, but have you checked with the insurance carrier to see if this situation would be covered by our insurance?
Well, it is now at Eastbrook.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so these two programs are in place, just they're separate. What we're doing is, we're creating one position that will do both. That way it helps out Gas City, and then it also helps out the school system to have that school resource officer there during the school year.
I just think this is amazing. I appreciate this kind of thinking. It's very innovative and it's godsend.
But I tell you, we're trying to do as much out of the box thinking as we can. Madison Grant is our next goal, to try to get someone out there and see what kind of agreement we can make with them to make that happen. So I know Mayor Rock had been pushing for a work crew for quite some time, and Gas City really couldn't afford to hire one full-time like Marion does, so we were able to come up with this plan to kill two birds with one stone. So
What happened to Oak Hill's person they had, because they hired their own a couple years ago?
he was retired, and they didn't hire anybody.
So this evening, we would amend the salary ordinance. The salary would be $73,691, or?
No, the salary amount would be $52,446.
$52,446.
Right. There's 17,000 for the health insurance, 230 for life, and then about $4,012 for FICA, which that's all covered by.
Yeah, you have everything you need.
Yep.
In the
So what's
start date.
salary package, is that the total, 73,688? Okay.
What's the start date?
We're hoping to start them at the first of the year, for the school. The agreement we've made with.
School year?
Yes.
Okay.
The agreement we've made with Gas City, obviously, they're putting in a pretty good chunk of change in it also, is that during our winter months, our county work crew isn't as busy. So they will dedicate, since the school resource officer is in the schools, they won't be able to work for Gas City. So the agreement we've made is that our county work crew guy will dedicate 1 day a week during the winter months to Gas City to assist them to kind of make up for some of the time that the school resource officer won't be helping.
And we still have to amend the salary ordinance because even though we're being reimbursed, it's coming through us.
Right.
Okay.
And is it in the salary, is it in commissary or is it in general?
It'd be in general.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, a portion would be in general. The work crew portion would come out of work crew. I'll have to figure all that out, how that is.
So is it legal to have the school and Gas City pay for this and he's still like a deputy?
Yes, we do that now. Gas City, or Marion pays for our work crew and there's still a deputy. And that was an insurance issue back in the day. Marion actually had 2 officers that did the work crew. They were Marion officers, but there was a liability issue with the inmates. So what they did in order to fix that problem, Marion decided, hey, we'll just pay for 2 and fund 2 positions for deputies and they'll work the work crew for the city of Marion. And in fact, a lot of the schools are starting to do that. The federal government's starting to push for school resource officers. Eventually, they'd like to have them in every school. Marion Community Schools, they have a school resource officer in every school, including the high school, elementaries, and junior high. So that's something that hopefully the federal government will help fund, because obviously we wouldn't be able to fund that. But that's something that may be coming down at some point.
You could swear in whoever you want to, couldn't you?
Right.
Sheriff.
Yeah.
There you go, Chuck. You're sworn
There
in.
you go, I'll make you special deputy, and you can go work Macinaval for us. Yeah, I think Macinaval's getting ready to get I was looking at getting a school resource officer there, so.
Yeah, I appreciate it being net neutral as well. Thinking outside the box, and we like that. This group likes that. Appreciate that. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Perez, to amend the salary ordinance to create a work crew deputy resource officer. The salary amounts to $52,446. Oak Hill Schools is going to pay a daily rate, as well as Gas City will pay a daily rate to fund this position. Angie has everything she needs.
Mike, one of them, I had to ask you when this is gonna begin. You said the first of the school year, but will they start the work crew portion like now? Are you wanting to hire immediately?
Well, we still need to hire someone, we'll still need to hire someone.
So we
So-
need to have an effective date.
Okay. So the school will start in August, so when does Oak Hill start?
I would assume that it would be effective whenever the contracts are signed.
Yeah, because we still have to do the contracts, and I'll get those contracts ready and present them to the body here once we get done with those. So we'll have to do, the contract that we do with Gas City will be similar to the one we have with Marion, and then the contract that we do, memorandum of agreement that we do with Oak Hill will be similar to what we have with Eastbrook, other than the numbers will be a little bit different.
That begs the question for me, what happens if Gas City and or Oak Hill terminate contract? Do we have to terminate an employee, or we just take over paying for it?
Well, we'll have to decide that. We'll have to decide that the body have to decide whether you guys want to cut a position or keep it. I don't see them doing that. I mean, I think everybody's pretty much in and is happy with with what they're gonna get. Obviously, Oak Hill's concerned about the safety of their kids, so I'd be surprised if they ever back out, and Gas City's been wanting to work for quite some time, so.
Would the candidate taking the position be informed that it's how it's funded and that could end?
Well, it could, and some of it
I
could
suppose
be.
that applies to every position.
Yeah, and that could be, that could happen. I mean, if that happens, then we'll have to, the council will have to decide whether we want to cut a position or not. And a lot of times through attrition, you can handle some of those situations. So hopefully that would never happen, but if it does, hopefully if we have to let someone go, it'd be by attrition as we have people retire and things like that.
Looks like Oak Hill's first student day is August 10th.
And so we could make it, and we could try and make it effective on that day. We're currently going through a hiring process for the roads, so we'll have our merit list. So we'll have someone ready to go if this is approved and once the school date starts.
Nathan and I did have some conversation about, does this fall within the union contract? And
Yeah, I reviewed the union contract. I don't see that this would contradict it in any way, so.
thank you. I have a motion, I have a second. Any other items you need? Public input? Roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Perez.
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bowling,
Aye.
Lemming,
Aye.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Next item under new business, item D, County Clerk Pam Harris with the salary ordinance amendment.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, President Middlesworth, and council members for a moment of your time. My letters, I'm sure you've read over it, you've had a lot going on. I'm gonna just briefly go over it again, just to refresh your memory. And I wanna say also that this is something that I've been mulling over for a long time, because I understand you give up people, positions, space, you do not get them back, and I fully understand that. And so we've kind of been working around to see how this is going to play out in our office. I have consolidated some parts of the office, putting circuit, soup 1, 2, and 3 in the same space. This has put more extra work on my staff as they've gotten a little bit familiar with each other's courts and how things are handled there. If I do go ahead and permanently dissolve or eliminate this position, I would then be asking even more of my staff as they have to work together for even more added responsibilities of the judgment clerk. This is a second deputy position, paying $30,135. I have shared with you in the past how the clerk's office loses members of staff to the courts, the prosecutor's office, and even away from county government for better pay. What I would like to do is take this $30,000 and divide it amongst my remaining staff members, getting them just a little bit closer to where I feel they should be, and kind of helping to boost morale a little bit. My office, they do so much for the county, for the courts, and for many of the other county offices. I do have a particular way that I would like to see this money divided. I would like to take $5,000 right off the top and give to my chief deputy, and I say that totally unembarrassed. She is amazing, 21 years of experience. She has such great knowledge of the clerk's office, of the county business, things, the intergoings between the courts. We even some of our dealings with the sheriff's department. 4D, the prosecutor's office, she's amazing. And she has more responsibilities than I could even begin to mention. So I feel very, very strongly about that. Most of the remaining balance, the $24,000, I'd like to divide between the remaining 12 members of my staff, giving them each a $2,000 raise, taking my first deputies from 31,242 to 33, 242. My second deputies from 3135 to 32135, with the exception of my head bookkeeper. Again, amazing wealth of knowledge there, and she is unbelievable in working with so many things come through that bookkeeping office throughout the courts and all, and she is point on in working with State Board of Accounts. She's unbelievable, and she has longevity, taking her from 31,661 to 33,661. There's a small balance remaining, and if I figured right, I'm sure Angie can square me up here, of 1,135, just a little bit, to fold back into the general fund, but we'd be saving the county the insurance and all the other benefits that go with that position. If you allow the redistributing of these monies, wouldn't cost the county anything and would do so much for my staff. They would appreciate it greatly, and so would I. They're amazing.
I have a couple of questions. When I see a math error, math's not my best subject. It's not adequate for me.
Okay.
How are you coming up with, we get $1,135 back?
No, 1,135.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said.
1,135.
That, because
You start with 3,135, and then you said you took 30,000.
then we'd have a balance actually of like the 25, but I'm just, if I'm figuring right, Angie, she's gonna square me up here. And I've gone over this several times, but Mr. Connor, I am also not a math wizard, so.
I'm a defense attorney. We think in terms of all or nothing.
Is that square?
Yeah, the math is right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the members?
I applaud your efforts. I know in the past we've had, as a body, or maybe even personally, we've talked about how we will give a department a lump sum of money and you guys figure out how you're going to distribute that amongst your employees. And this goes a long way towards those discussions that we have had in the past. You know your department much better than we do, and I like that's not costing us any additional money. So I applaud your efforts of trying to think through this, and I know it wasn't an easy decision on your part with rolling this through, but great job.
Thank you, sir.
I couldn't agree more. This is exactly what we're asking our department heads to do.
Thank you.
I guess I'm gonna be the one that has a problem with it, because we're in the middle of the year, and we got budgets coming up in 2 months, and you're asking to give your people what, as Mr. McWhorter would say, percentage raise would be pretty big this time of year. Do I think the effort's right and the placement's right? Yeah, I do, but I'd also like to see Justin go through, because he usually does that at the end of the year to say, hey, if this chief deputy's making X and this one's only making Y, you need to make sure these are leveled up, because as soon as this happens, every person out there is gonna see this, and we're gonna get these bombarded for the next 2 months. So, I guess you know where I stand, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's quite all right. I certainly understand. One thing is, of course, I would love this to be retroactive, but if that's a deal breaker, we could start with the next payroll. As far as being, lining up a little bit with some of the other positions in the county, we do have like the auditor chief deputy, it'd be closer in line to her, the GIS deputy, the public defender secretary, the prosecutor's office manager, the auditor's payroll deputy, auditor's billing, the CE abatement. It'd be closer in line to some of those positions. So it wouldn't be way far above and ahead, but more in line with some of those positions. And with that said, I don't begrudge them a dime of what they're making. My word, I know that they are working ever so hard and diligently and for what they're doing for the county as well. It's just I would like my chief deputy to also be compensated for that.
Yeah, I just want to echo Mr. Levy's comments. we appreciate the effort that your office does and this approach to saving the county money and trying to get the wages up of the other employees. We know that all the employees in the county deserve to make more than they're making and are below all the other counties, or most of them for sure. Man, you know, budget's just around the corner. We put off, a lot of times we'll say, oh, come back at budget time, and then we don't take the time at budget time to really dig into some of these issues. I think that moving forward, maybe have an HR make sure that these are in line with the other units, the other employees. Like Mr. Lemming said, probably is a good idea. But I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes, I'm just saying that I need to think about it.
My concern is that because if I wait, and I understand, we are looking at the budget coming right up, and if I wait and get that 3%, 5%, whatever, for my staff that everybody else is getting, they're still going to be way under what the others are making. And my staff, I have someone here right now that knows very, very well that they could just move upstairs and make $6,000 more. I'm not asking for $6,000, I'm asking for $2,000. And that's still, they're still going to be enticed to move upstairs. And I'm still going to be starting from scratch, trying to retrain, and there's a lot that goes in, and you can ask them by sometimes things that aren't handled properly, because I have new staff members that are trying to work from scratch to get things figured out. And if I can entice my staff to stay a little bit longer by giving them a little bit more of what I feel they're due, then I'm sure gonna ask for that.
Dr. King, can you help me understand the concern? What's the downside of letting them juggle some money mid-term for the budget? Are you concerned they'll come back and get a percentage increase on top of what they're getting now?
Well, I think that's one part of it, sure, but you're looking at 6%, almost a 13% raise in the middle of the year. And then I'm just saying, if these, based on, and I'm not doubting Pam's numbers, but if you're not comparing them for all the other chief deputies and all the other people, then you're just gonna have this continue. I mean, you were on that committee, you and I, right? When we just said, hey, give this, we're still coming back from that, in my opinion, where you're trying to make people whole as far as what they're getting paid compared to the next person over. I just feel like if you do that now, you're just compounding it again.
So we're going against the concept of wage equity or salary equity by doing this?
Probably, yeah.
That I don't understand, because I'm hearing Pam say it's going to be promote the equity. If it's a
in her office.
Yeah.
In her office, yes, but if you look at it from the bigger perspective, I think that you're gonna have a.
So that's the floodgate argument.
Correct.
See, I thought maybe that's where we were going. In my opinions, it's just me, that's the kind of floodgate I'd like to open. If the floodgate open is department heads coming to us and saying, I'm gonna reduce the position, save you a little money, save you insurance and benefits, and then take the money I'm keeping to spread around and keep good employees and keep them happy, bring on the floodgates.
There's a upside and a downside. I mean, some of the other units may not have they may already be to skeleton crew and not have places to cut, so to speak. And then this office has places to cut, and then now all of a sudden the pay discrepancies across all the departments are out of whack.
See, to me, that just says that, and no offense to Pam, but maybe those departments have already been doing that. The cutting and the downsizing.
I think in my eyes, I would like to see Justin look at the numbers, compare the departments, and then give his stamp of approval on, is this good across the board?
there.
And I'm gonna be upfront and honest too, Mr. Lemming. If this were granted tonight, I would be back at budget time asking for a raise along with everybody else.
Sure.
I will be, and I'm not gonna say I won't, because I will be, because my staff, you know, they deserve the raise and the same compensation as the other staff members that the county has. So I don't wanna say, oh no, I wouldn't do that, because I would. But
Any other questions or comments from the members?
I'll echo Mr. Connor and say bring on the floodgates. Pay equity is one thing when we're talking about actual impactful salaries. At this point, we're so far low that we need to do everything we can in any capacity, and I commend every department head for trying to do so, whether others can or not, but that's just the hands we're all dealt with. Even moving them up to 32,000, just looking real quick, that's $8,000 above the poverty line for a family of four. Like, we have to do better, and I commend your efforts, so bring on the floodgates.
Any other questions or comments from the members? I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Perez to amend the salary ordinance. You want to go through those, Angie, or what's your?
Do you have this? I already have it.
You have it?
I got it, yeah.
Amend the salary ordinance as requested. Okay, any other questions or comments from the members? Public input?
I'll just speak for a minute. I'm a little concerned about this because I won't be able to steal her employees as easily as I have in the past. I think I stole at least 2 of them.
Judge, like you stole
That's
some
another
dogs.
point there. I think the other point needs to be made is these employees do have specialized knowledge and training with regards to the court computer system. They have to work with court employees. They have to have some legal knowledge as well. So not everybody can do these jobs, and Pam has had a ton of turnover. She's had to dedicate a lot of time to training as well, and so I think that more fairly compensating her employees in the clerk's office is definitely warranted, and so I support it.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other public input? Roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Perez,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bowling,
Aye.
Lemming,
No.
Middlesworth.
No.
Does not pass, so it'll have to come back for a second reading.
Thank you for your
Yep.
time, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. Next item under new business, Idaho County Health Department. James Randolph with grant fund approval, state funding review, salary ordinance amendment. Hey Angie, in the meantime, remind me that Justin.
Absolutely.
Review that, okay?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to introduce Dr. Rudolph real quick, and then this is Dr. Rudolph, he's our interim health officer. I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation, and then he's going to share some information with you. The first thing before you tonight is our preparedness grant. The commissioners approved renewing this on June 5th. We've been receiving this since 2001. Nothing has changed over last year, same amount of money, same budget, everything. We just need your permission to renew it again. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? This is the approval for the grant fund. It's a reimbursable grant. What's the cycle? June 5th through when?
It's a July to June grant,
July to
so it
June.
starts July 1st and will end, June 30th of next year.
This is different from the rest of this.
Any questions or comments regarding this request?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Scott to.
Mr. President.
Might be me.
I think I heard him first, but I think it was
Might be
close.
That's the speed sound that causes that.
Second from Mr. Scott to approve the preparedness grant within the county health department, July 1st through June 30th. It's $12,000 for preparedness coordinator, $5,000 for support staff, administration and financial, $4,140 for support staff, $2,925 in FICA and PERF, $935 in expenses, travel and supplies, other expenses. And this grant's been, what, 21?
It's 2001 is when it,
2001.
yes, when it originated. It has changed over time, but it hasn't changed from this for the last 4 years.
Any other questions or comments?
We've been getting this grant for 20 years and we rank 89th out of 92 counties.
This is preparedness. It has nothing to do with public health. Well, very little to do with public
So
health.
what are we getting for the people, what they're getting paid? What are they doing for that?
The preparedness coordinator develops our plans. She is responsible for helping develop and get us participating in the exercises that the EMA does. Support myself, I do the finances, I do the claims, I do the payroll, I make sure that we have supplies.
For the preparedness grant,
Yes,
isn't the preparedness grant for disaster?
emergency preparedness, correct.
And doesn't Bob Jackson make the preparedness grant? He just includes the health department?
No, the public health portion of the emergency plan is developed by the health department. He does all of the rest of the emergency preparedness plan. We had to write our own. That's another thing that the coordinator, the three of us together work on developing that plan.
Do you have to report your activities or not results?
Yes.
But, I mean,
There
you
are
have to
multiple,
report that back to the state.
they're called deliverables, that, yes, we are required to meet monthly. We have to report the deliverables when we file the claim for the monthly reimbursement.
Any other questions or comments from the members? I have a motion and a second. Any public input? Roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Perez,
Aye.
Poling,
Yes.
Lemming,
Yes.
Middlesworth.
Yes.
And then, do we have to do the salary ordinance amendment with that? No, okay. Next, I would like to share with you that Senate Enrolled Act, Senate Enrolled Act 4 takes effect July 1st, which creates a scenario where the council will now be responsible for appointing one member of the health board. It's the state's way of trying to bridge the gap so that the council is more comfortable with what the health department tries to do.
Oh, so this is a new appointment.
So we have a 7-member panel, and when one of the terms expire, which I believe we have 2 or 3 expiring the end of this year, then the council will get 1 appointment, where previously the commissioners made all 7 appointments. So I will let you know closer to time that you need to work on getting us an appointment. Okay? And
So-
then, oh, go ahead.
Do we need to approve anything?
No, that was just an FYI.
Okay.
And then Dr. Rudolph is going to share information about the Health First Indiana funding that the commissioners have approved to accept to come to Grant County.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Hopefully you all got a copy of the PowerPoint presentation before the meeting. This is the Governor's Health Initiative, which was developed in August of 2021 to look at the state of the health per capita in the state of Indiana. The commission was formed of 15 members appointed by the governor in Holcomb, which was representing public health, local health, government, Indiana Minority Health Coalition, and Healthcare Association. They met monthly for in 2022 to 2022. They delivered their findings. The charge of the committee was to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the public health system, identify improvements, identify legislative proposals, and issue in a written report. And you can imagine how long that written report was. How did Grant County compare? How did we come out here in Grant County? We ranked 89th out of 92, which is not good. You need to be higher. Life expectancy in the county is 73.2 years as compared to 76.5 years for the state. STD rate for Grant County was 624 per 100,000 citizens as compared to the state average of 495. 26% of the Grant County children are living in poverty as opposed to 16% in the state. Grant County suffered 40 fatal drug overdoses in 2022 alone, which is a 122% increase since 2016. Overall, we were 86 out of 92 counties in spending on public health at $6.76 per capita, and that ranged from about $1.50 per capita to the high of $86 per capita, which I believe was Garcia County. So what they would like us to do is increase state investment in public health, and not ask the counties to increase monies to public health. Provide local health departments with stable, recurring, and accessible funding. And what we are told from the state is that this will be recurring funding. It'll be a line item in the budget. So it's not a grant, which is a good thing. So we know all how grants go. Local elected officials in each jurisdiction get to decide whether they want to participate in this or not, which they are calling opt in or opt out. And you have to opt in every 2 years. If you opt out, then you will continue to make your budget the way you normally do. You won't receive any extra funds. What they looked at as far as money going, is they are basing that on how many counties opt in and how many counties are going to opt out. So they can't give us an exact amount of money that we want to get, but they did give us a range. And the range for 2024, and in 2024, we would receive half the monies that we would receive in 2025, and after 2025, the recurring monies would be the same amount. For 2024, it's half. That would range from a minimum of an additional $775,085.25. Maximum would be $1,033,447. So I know that as we've been making up the budget for this, we're going to use the lower number, then we can adjust upward if we need to, depending on how much comes in. In 2025, minimum would be 1.5 million, the maximum of 2,066,894. You also have to understand that the county has to match at least 20% of these monies to receive the monies. And out of all the counties in Indiana, only 2 did not meet that requirement, and we were not one of those 2. We currently are matching $433,281, so we're well above the 20% mark. If we do opt into this program, we will lose our legacy money to the local health maintenance fund, which currently is $79,296.90. But again, then you'll be getting somewhere around $1 million to $2 million in exchange for that money. So I think that's a good thing on your investment. As especially if it's all in the stock market. He wants to look at core public services, and if you look at this sheet right here, this lists all the core public services that they're looking at. And they divided it up between the health part of the department and the environmental services. And to get this, we have to make sure that our budget is divided 60-40, with 60% going to the health part and 40% going to the environmental part of the budget. How can we use the funds? Just about for anything. And I'm not going to read all this, but if you look at this slide, which I think we have there, it tells you what you can spend it for. You can spend for staffing, for equipment, capital investments, although capital investments are capped at 10%.
So do these funds stay in the health department? The health department's control that?
Yes. It'd be a line item budget.
To clarify, the council would still control it. The council would still approve the budget. But
Yeah,
it
you
would-
approve the budget, but as far as spending, it's a line item in the budget. So it'll be just like our regular budget.
Well, if you can get that much money and it's saying you can use it for salaries, staffing, that means that the council don't have to give you guys nothing?
No, you have to give us 20%.
I mean, I was thinking 20%, I mean, we get to take all you guys' salary back and keep asking if you can use this money for it?
Well, the first year you would have to, the county portion would be the average of the last 3 years spent on public health. So it would be $638,000. Are we still agreed on that number? I haven't checked with you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's the number Angie and I came up with several months ago. In year one, the county would have to match at $638,000. After year one, as long as we continue to opt in, you would have to match 20% of what the state funded, which would be between $325,000 and $433,000.
But that's the maximum, but we'll probably not get the maximum,
Yeah.
correct?
The state is coming out and telling us to use the maximum number to develop the budget. But we're trying to be conservative to use the minimum.
We're choosing to budget the minimum, and if we get excess, we'll come back and kind of discuss what to do with that.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to make sense of, but I hope this clarified it a little. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, all right. I'm essentially done.
It seems to me eventually the county is going to be saving money.
Possibly. Say that again.
Seems to me that eventually the county is going to be saving money. Because the match is going to be less than what we're budgeting for.
Substantially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. The commissioners did choose to opt in, so unless the council just refuses to budget it, we are moving forward. It's kind of an FYI as budget hearings are coming up, that this is what we're looking at, and talk to Angie today, like, do you want me to prepare budgets with this funding and budgets without, or just go ahead and prepare a budget with the new funding?
And you have to have that plan to the state by September, did I see?
I have to have an approved budget to the state by September 1st. Yes, if we're gonna go ahead and accept the funding.
But when you're doing that, does anything else go down in your budget?
Does anything else go down in my budget?
And your budget stay the same and we just add 400 more thousand to your budget so you can get the extra?
No.
No.
You, first year you would spend the 630, took my glasses off the top, 638,000. And then each year after that, the most the county would have to invest is the 422,000, and that's if we got the max amount. The minimum the county would spend is the 325,000.
Yeah, what he's saying is, if you get $2 million, are you guys gonna be cutting some of your stuff on the county budget side, since you get $2 million from this, to do with what you wanna do with it?
Well, we're in order to receive the funding, maybe I'm not understanding your question. In order to receive the funding, the county has to match at 20%.
Right.
I understand that.
So, no, we would
So are we
enhance
gonna
services.
cut some of the services from the county budget?
No, are you gonna cut some of your budget from the county from the general fund,
Oh,
since you're getting all this money.
Transfer over to the state fund, which it's, I mean, they're still gonna send the money to the county, but yes, we would transfer the expenses over. Any new employees would come out of the state funding, and there are multiple KPIs that have to be met to receive this funding, an overwhelming amount of KPIs. We will have to hire some new staff. A school liaison is a requirement if we accept it. We don't have a school liaison right now.
But you got rid of that 2 years ago.
We've never had a school liaison.
You had the lady who went around the school.
We had a health educator. School liaison is a slightly different position.
But any new hires would come out of the state funds.
Mm-hmm.
So on the maximum, we're looking at saving roughly $200,000.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from the members? Are you wanting us to seek approval tonight on the?
I'm wanting a nudge from you to just submit one budget instead of two separate budgets. That's what I'm wanting.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
A smile and nod works.
I'm good if you just want to go with them.
The request is just to do one budget?
That grant is based
Not
on.
a grant.
It's not a grant.
I mean, the funding is based, yes, the funding is based off your current budget. If we start looking to save money on the back end through it, it's not one budget, from my perspective. That's just me.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
But do we have to create a new fund for this money? We have to create a new fund.
To do that,
So
yes.
you're still gonna be doing two separate budgets. It's gonna be as a whole, but you're still gonna have
Be two separate ones.
So, yeah.
So what if this money goes away? What happens to all these people if you gotta get all these different people to work?
Then we
They just
adjust.
give up the money.
We adjust. We're being told it's a state line item, that it's not going anywhere.
It's like
It's
everything.
just- I know,
Everything we've done right now.
so should we not accept it at all? Like-
No,
I mean, I
Okay.
think you gotta play the game.
Part of the KPIs is to prove that the money is making a difference
Yeah.
to Grant County. In 3 or 4 years, if the state sees that this funding isn't making a difference anywhere, they probably are gonna start cutting it. I mean, we're gonna do our very best to put it to wonderful use.
That's good to hear.
Would you be able to submit that or send me a copy of that plan that you're putting together?
What plan?
That,
The budget?
yeah,
Yeah, when we get it together. I can send you what we,
but you also have a plan that you have to put together. You're going to tell the state how you're going to be doing
Somewhat,
these
yes.
services.
Yes.
That's what I would be interested in more than
So we can just copy you,
just to see how to do what.
we can just copy you on that.
Sure.
and I'll be honest, in year one, part of the reason you only get half the funding in year one is because they recognize it takes a while to get these plans put together. Like, we know we have to hire a school liaison. We know we have to hire a third environmental health specialist because inspecting every pool in the county will be required. I don't know that we're gonna have huge plans in year one, but I will send you everything we have as we have it. And you'll have a health board appointment come into the year, so you'll be in the know.
Year one is more of a planning year to decide how to go about putting all this together, because like you can tell, it's gonna be kind of complicated.
Right.
And doing this and getting your MUOs out there and seeing how you work with the community partners.
Awesome, thank you.
Angie, let me clarify, it's a separate fund, so it's still gonna have line items.
It's still gonna have appropriations
So you're
within that
still-
fund, yes,
Yeah.
two budgets.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll be a separate fund, a health fund is fund number 1159.
Right, it has to be a
The
separate
health-
fund.
Yeah, so it's gonna have separate appropriations. So it's
So
gonna
we'll
be
get
two
rid of like
budgets.
1206 and 1168, they'll be gone. So it's still easier. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Nice. Next item under new, let's take a 5-minute break. Took way too long. Recess is ended, and we'll get back to new business. Next item under new business, County Emergency Medical Service, Duaine Ashcraft with the salary ordinance amendment and a transfer of appropriation within the general fund.
Gentlemen, back again. Appreciate it. What I'm doing here, what I'm asking you to do is to approve a temporary 6-month position so that we can get a person trained and certified as a biller and coder, so that at the first, then when I finally step aside and Dawn takes the position, it will leave another position. Right now, we have 2 vacant positions that we really, one we can't fill, the other one's on FM and LA. So this is only a temporary position for 6 months at a salary of $18 or 18 hours per week, at a salary of $12.80, which would begin on July the 17th. This would require me to transfer $4,700 from the line item 1403 EM salary to a new line item created for that temporary position. So it's not an increase in money. You say, well, how do you have 4,700? Well, we're operating with 2 people down. One because of accident, FMLA, and the other one who we reluctantly had transferred to the central dispatch, which we needed very badly. So that's my request. Really, I guess in 2 parts. One is the creation of a temporary position so that we can get her trained and certified in the coding and billing. And then the transfer of money to accommodate that. And of course, it is a salary ordinance change, which would be at $12.80 per hour, per 18 hours a week.
Is there any questions or comments? Would be to amend the salary ordinance to include a part-time ambulance coder biller at the rate of pay of $12.80 per hour. The start date's July the 17th. And then you could include the transfer of $4,700 from EMT salaries to part-time. Any questions or comments? If there are none, I entertain a motion.
So moved as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Perez, a second from Mr. Connor to approve within the Grant County EMS a part-time ambulance coder biller with the rate of pay at $12.80 per hour, starting July the 17th. And then also requesting a transfer of $4,700 from line item EMT salaries to part-time. Any other questions or comments from the members? Public input? Roll call, please.
Perez,
Aye.
Connor,
Yes.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bowling,
Yes.
Lemming,
Aye.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Motion carries.
Two additional things. Point of reference. One is our ambulance crews operate on 72 hours a week. Our pay and the pay that is either 70 or 80. We can't work them up to 80 because we can't put on an 8-hour truck and we don't have enough people to actually split. So the commissioners asked that at some point that a member of the council and the commissioner, Ms. Angie and Justin, sat down to work that out. If so, particularly going to a pay system, we really need to look at that because right now the pay is 70 hours or 80 hours, but actually these supervisors actually work 72 hours. It just doesn't fit to work the 80. The other thing, and so I'm sure the commissioners or Justin will be approaching you at some point to look at it. The other thing I do want in your discussion with Mill Township and the trustee is all of these departments have been hit with these radio situations. We're gonna have to include 133,000 just to update all of our ambulance modules and all of the handhelds. Gonna have to be updated and replaced. So the mutual aid is kind of working together. Some of the cities like Marion, they did replace all of them. Gas City did theirs as well. So it doesn't make any difference whether it's sheriff's department, ambulance, or what. So you're gonna hear a lot more probably about that.
The 72 hour, is that part of the employee handbook?
No, we currently have a 70-hour and an 80-hour pay period. We do not have a 72 hours, so anytime they work over that 70 hours are paid for overtime.
Okay.
So,
yeah, let us know.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item under new business, item G, County Court Services, Mark Spitzer with a grant request, opioid settlement, salary ordinance amendment, and then a budget approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. So I'm here to talk about the opioid settlement funds the county has received. Mr. Duaine, could I have you take one and pass? So I got passing down a little bit of information for you with regards to that. I have a number of different requests that I think are fairly easy, and then also some thinking ahead as well. I know we've been talking about the value of transparency today, so this will be transparent for the future. As you know, there are opioid settlement funds that have been made available to local government units, and the opioid settlements that we are currently looking at are partially or part of the opioid settlements, but there are additional opioid settlements that are coming in the future. And we have started receiving opioid settlement funds from one settlement, and then there's another settlement, I think, that's out there, CVS, Walgreens, some of the other ones. We're not real sure what's happening with that at that point. The Local Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council established a work group, including the Commissioner's representative, to discuss options for use of the settlement funds. The settlement funds are restricted to what is called abatement purposes, used for abatement purposes. And so there's some specific things or strategies that you can use the funds for. And so we came up with a recommendation or a couple of different options to use the opioid settlement funds. The total amount of the funds over the course of the entire time are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.8 million received over the course of, I think it's 18 years. So we have received some of those funds already in 2022, expect to receive some more in 2023. What we wanted to do was fund something that we thought would work, so we looked at some strategies that we'd already employed that were currently funded by grants. So two things, a probation officer who is supporting the drug court program. That gives us a third probation officer. That allowed us to expand our drug court program from 55 participants at any one time to 70 participants at any one time. It's currently supported by a Bureau of Justice Assistance grant. That grant funds will run out in September of this year unless they grant us a no-cost extension, which we think is possible because they were late in starting to pay or fund our positions because of the pandemic. So I'm almost certain we'll get that. Then it will be September of next year if that happens. After that time, those funds aren't available, grant funds, and so the proposal is to replace that with opioid settlement funds. And then the other proposal is to again, something that we funded through Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant, a treatment coordinator. What a treatment coordinator does is when individuals in our problem-solving courts, and in this case we're expanding it to all of probation, have a need for either sober living or residential treatment outside of Grant County. So they make arrangements for individuals to check into those, find beds, have them assessed, follow through with the assessment, do the appropriate releases that we need, communicate with them, arrange transportation back and forth. So that's been something that we've done with the drug court as well. So the easy, I guess, part of this is that there are funds for what we are requesting. The more difficult thing is I'm just asking you to think ahead a little bit with regards to how those funds are going to be used as they come in the future, so that we have a plan for those. In the agenda it says grant request. It's really not a grant. We've already received the money and will be receiving the money. We would need a salary ordinance amendment and then I guess approval of the budget for the future as we move forward. So there were two options that we've looked at, and one is to fully support the salary and benefits for both positions through 2027, beginning in 2028, and then using the settlement funds. In 2028, the county would start contributing 10% towards the salary and benefit of both positions, and then incrementally increasing with the final match of 65.5% in 2038. But then you'd have to make a decision about the positions. Option two, which is the one that we propose, would be support the salary and benefits through 2027. And then in 2028, the county would start contributing 25% towards the probation officer position over 4 years until it's fully funded. And then the salary and benefits of the treatment coordinator positions is fully supported throughout the last year of the settlement, when the county might have to contribute a small amount for that. The idea is that this gives the county an opportunity to plan for the future for these two positions. They're two positions that we know are effective because we're already utilizing them. It is an approved use of the opioid settlement funds to directly impact people who are suffering from opioid dependence. So I know I threw a lot of information at you. Part of the packet has the actual figures. The position with regards to treatment coordinator, we would start out at $40,000. I think we'd anticipate probably a certified peer support specialist maybe to staff that position, and then any raises would be according to the county raise schedule. It would not be a probation officer. The other one obviously is a probation officer and would accept the probation officer schedules. We used 5% for the raises just to be conservative in terms of as we sort of mocked out the salaries over the course of time and how much it would cost, but obviously that's just a prediction or an approximation at this point. So we would need to add that $40,000 position to the salary ordinance for the future. So I know I threw a lot of information at you, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have.
So just to clarify, this grant is two positions. One would be
not a grant. We actually already have the money.
Opioid settlement funds.
Yeah, settlement funds. Yes, yes, you get it.
$40,000 to the treatment coordinator.
Correct.
Probation officer.
Yes, correct. And then the probation officer would be according to the current probation officer salary schedule.
That schedule is.
Yeah. And we've actually had the figure for the first year for the person we have in that.
And then if you flip to the one with the the yellow line item, you're saying at year 2027, the county would then start paying 10% of those two positions?
So that would be option one. Option two, we would like that in 2027, help me out.
Yeah, it's the same year.
Same year, yeah, 2027, 25% contribution.
And then what's required of the grant? And the grant is to phase it in, is what you're saying?
The funds, the only requirement for the funds is that they be used for approved purposes. And so, you know, this is our proposal in terms of how to use those funds.
So it allows longer, how did you come up with the schedule?
Well, we just looked at different ways that we could fund the two positions. We felt that the county should have some skin in the game. We wanted to have a proposal for both positions to be funded primarily by the settlement funds, at least for you know, the near future, and then to plan ahead. We haven't seen the drug issues that we're dealing with decrease. So
Does this include the reduction in the jail population?
well, you know, well, we would hope that this is going to contribute to a reduction in the jail population. I graduated 15 people from my drug court last month who are in recovery right now, productive members, tax-paying members of Grant County, and hope to do that, continue to do that regularly in the future. So it's certainly a strategy. You know, these are people who had multiple felonies coming into drug court, and they leave with a job, place to live, in recovery, reunited with family. So it's the best strategy that we have, the most intensive program that we have to address the opioid and methamphetamine epidemic that we're facing.
The treatment coordinator, what are they going to coordinate?
So what you typically will see is you have an individual who, for example, has a lapse or a relapse, and rather than getting outpatient treatment, then they might need a period of inpatient treatment. A lot of times it's a 28-day program. Another strategy is if they don't have an appropriate living situation, to be in a sober living house like Hope House. We use a number of different sober living houses, Agape. We use a place in Huntington as well for ladies. And so it's coordinating the beds, getting them there and back, coordinating the communication, getting the releases signed, that kind of, you know, all of those things. And so we have somebody who's doing that on a part-time basis now on the grant for just drug court. The idea is that all the other problem-solving courts need these services as well as regular probation. So to get somebody in-house to do that and expand that. Now we're kind of doing a little bit of it on an ad hoc with some probation officers. That's not necessarily their skill set or what they signed up for, and it doesn't always happen as timely. It does impact jail census because a lot of times we're releasing people from the jail to a inpatient or facility or something like that. You know, that takes the pressure off of the jail as well, and so this treatment coordinator can make those arrangements, get them directly from the jail, you know, to the residential facility. And so,
Any other questions or comments from the members?
So if I'm reading this correctly, eventually, in essence, what we are doing is guaranteeing to pay two positions in the future 100%.
Well, you need to make a decision in 2038 about the treatment coordinator, and you would. So the option 2 would be, if you did option 2, then the settlement funds would in essence pay the entire amount of the treatment coordinator through 2038. If option 1 is 10% for both positions starting in 2028. So, you know, I think the one you couldn't do without is the probation officer, because if you lose a probation officer, then you had to cut the capacity of the drug court. So, you know, the treatment coordinator, I guess you'd go back to what you tried now in order to do that, but.
I mean, I don't know how we tie the hands of future council members to make a decision on two positions. There's no guarantee if we can even afford those two positions.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not necessarily asking that you make that decision today. We had a meeting, and actually, I appreciated Mr. Lemming being at the meeting as well, and what we talked about was that we wanted to give a clear picture of what the future might be, so that, you know, as we came forward and looked at those positions in the future, we could reflect back and, you know, we can tell you kind of what the proposal was and what the plan was. I understand things can change, you know, I understand, you know, and so that may change things. We're probably gonna get some more opioid settlement funds, and so you know, that may change the mix of things as well. I don't know that yet, and I don't know how much. Sure. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a, you know, murky, but what I think we need is a plan for the funds, because they're gonna be audited. You know, we need to spend them for approved purposes. And then if that plan changes in the future, okay, we can talk about that.
How can we use some user fee funding to help with this?
Well, we do, and Melissa, probably we do fund some things out of user fees already.
All of our operating expenses are paid out of our user fee funds, and we currently support one probation officer out of our user fee funds.
But we have balances that is accumulating in those funds.
Not enough to support positions, like ongoing.
I'm not saying 100%, I'm saying to assist.
It's not likely.
I mean, one of the challenges that we were running into is that we continue to have increased costs for drug screens. I mean, that's a big issue that we're dealing with. You know, so planning, the funds aren't that big that they wouldn't be eaten up pretty quickly with using them differently than, and I'm not comfortable with adding more on those user fee funds at this point. I think Melissa's got a good plan for kind of keep maintaining the balance at a reasonable level.
Any other questions or comments?
I know the funds are, the uses for getting our own settlement, and that one, the funds are very restricted. So as far as being in the way that we utilize them, from what I've seen, again, everything that the big issues that we're talking about with E91 and jail, those are all the effects. And I like the proactiveness of using these funds, because that's what it is to help too. But moving forward in the future, I appreciate and respect Mike's comment, but I myself am for beginning to set a precedent for investing in ourselves on the front end to avoid these longer back end, larger costs that we are now dealing with.
Any other questions or comments? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion. To amend the salary limit, right?
Well, that would depend on which option.
I think for the current year, really what you only need is to amend the salary ordinance to add the one additional position to it, and with the clarification it would be funded by, then I think we just need to be mindful in the future as how that's going to be funded. Is that a fair statement, Melissa?
Yeah, at some point we'll have to revisit which option.
Do you have to declare an option? I mean,
Not for this year.
Not for this year.
Yeah.
Or
Not for
So this is pretty much projections, right? Because you said you may get more, you may get less.
It is.
Probably not less, obviously, but you'll probably get more. And so these are projections moving forward. We're saying, hey, we're gonna fund this position, and then this gives us our idea or our outlook as to where we need to be looking at plan-wise. So I think we want to go ahead and do the proposal and get them the person. I don't know that we want to just pick an option at this point, do you?
No, I think you just amend the salary ordinance to add a treatment coordinator.
Okay, I would make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Lemming, a second from Mr. Connor to amend the salary ordinance and add a treatment coordinator within the opioid settlement fund?
Which one? There's restricted and unrestricted, I just wanna verify.
I think would we put it within your budget and then we would, I guess, I don't know.
Is this part of the restricted
So
funding, or is it
those projections are a total of both.
Both, yeah.
so would a portion be paid out of both funds? So
think
would we
we-
pay 20 out of unrestricted and 20 out of,
I mean, I think the way that I was thinking of it is you would add it to probation's budget, and then, you would pay it from the opioid settlement, because you're gonna be reporting to them how you're spending the money for that.
yeah, but there's two different funds.
Right.
So I'd have to add to the salary ordinance both funds, but what portion of the salary is being paid from each fund? And where are the benefits being paid from?
Yeah, I don't know that matters, so, I mean, you can use both of them for that, so.
So you're thinking like a treatment coordinator and a probation?
No, I'm just talking about the treatment coordinator.
Okay, so
That's
if
the
it
only
was
thing you
under
guys have on the table.
probation's budget, then you would pay like a reimbursable to?
She has to know how much money to take out of each one.
There's two funds.
There's two funds. I need to know how you want it split up. Are we gonna pay half of the salary out of 12-7, or the unrestricted and the other half out of restricted?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, is it about half? Each
No, it's
one?
not, it's
That's
85-15, I think.
Yeah, it's.
Well, that's probably how we should stick to paying the percentages. is-
Whatever is easiest for audits, right?
Yeah, I would say if there's 85% taken out of one of them, or if it's 85% of the overall budget, then 85% of that salary needs to come out of that particular fund.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I believe it's 85-15, but I would just verify that.
I'm not trying to complicate it, I apologize. Which one is the smaller fund of the two? The restricted?
Restricted, or no,
Unrestricted.
unrestricted.
Yeah, unrestricted is the smaller.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, yeah, so I mean, all of it, this expenditure would be a qualifying expenditure for the restricted. You have a little bit more freedom with the unrestricted if you don't wanna tie your hands on the money that could be interpreted for broader uses. I would suggest, and not sounding like the man trying to manage it, but to do it all other restricted, so you're not tying the hands out of the
It would
broader
be
use money.
easier. It would be way easier just to pay all of it out of one of the funds.
If that was me, but it's your department, your guys' recommendation.
What I'd hate to see is the temptation to use those unrestricted funds for something other than opioid purposes. That's what I would hate to see. 'Cause really, these are opioid funds. City and Towns is saying they're recommending that you use all of it, so,
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But I'm of the same mind because frankly and selfishly, I want that unrestricted to become a number that's tempting to you to come back with us with a really cool idea.
Okay. Yeah, so, no, and I think if you wanted to do it out of restricted at this point, and then there might be a time where you could transfer from unrestricted to restricted, probably, or, yeah.
So what's the will of the council?
Mark, you want to amend your motion? Have it all come out of restricted?
I don't know what was in the motion, but
There was nothing in the motion.
But we can add that to it if you'd like. Be all right with me, sure.
Second the amended motion.
And I apologize to interrupt, but did you specify a salary, or do we need to specify the salary? We'd identify that at 40, starting at 40.
And an effective date.
What's the effective date?
We can, when would you like to try and start it?
You guys can start at this next pay period, or this pay period, which would have been like 19. And then
Next pay period, okay?
We just want to be able to fill it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we can do it, we can make next pay period effective date, we may not be able to fill it, and so that's okay.
Okay, so I have amended the motion to include, pay it all out of the restricted. Any public input? Roll call, please.
Lenny?
This is on the amendment.
Aye.
Connor?
Yes.
Scott?
Aye.
Hicks?
Yes.
Perez?
Aye.
Poling?
Yes.
Middlesworth?
Yes. Okay, the motion's amended now. The motion would be to have the treatment coordinator at the 40,000, and it would be effective the next pay period.
Got it.
Correct? Any questions or comments? Public input? Roll call, please.
Motion?
Darby?
Out of restricted as well.
It was already done.
Yeah, that was done.
That's what we just did.
No, we
The
voted-
40,000.
No, we voted on the amendment. We had amendment.
No, the motion was amended.
You got to vote on the salary too.
And I seconded the amended motion. It's done.
Are you sure? Because normally you have to vote on the amendment to have
I
the
don't
motion.
think we actually had in the amendment what the salary was, or when it was
Yeah, it's
amended.
40,000.
Changed and said that, I just said, so moved, before everybody. Right.
I have that you have it all coming from restricted, it's 40,000 and it's effective the next pay. That's what I have wrote
Okay,
down.
I thought we had amendment.
That's what I heard.
We had amended motion. If you have amended motion, you have to vote on the amendment. To include it in the motion, then you vote on the motion, correct?
Right.
Aye. So,
So
I'm
that
just
last
saying,
vote
that
was
maybe
for
I
the
said
amendment.
amendment motion,
Okay.
I'd recommend you
Aye.
walk the dog.
yeah, I mean, that's Robert Rules of Procedures.
Okay.
Anyways, public input. I have a motion and a second already. Okay, roll call.
Lenny?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Hicks?
Yes.
Perez?
Aye.
Poling?
Yes.
And Middlesworth?
Yes. The motion, the amendment of the motion was to make it all out of restricted, just to be clear.
Okay, so who did the first and second of the last thing we just did?
It was the same.
Same.
Lenny, Connor.
Slimming and Connor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I do mine was-
Cornfields.
Well, that's you.
Nothing with probation officers. Right? Next item under new business, item H, County Public Defender Bruce Elliott with the transfer of appropriation to general fund and also another transfer of appropriation. Sorry it's taken this long.
You're fine, and
You've been patiently waiting enough.
I was supposed to go last month, but I had a birthday for my youngest daughter and dinner, so I asked to be put today, so I did it to myself. Yes, I will not take too much of your time this evening, I hope not. We have asked for two different transfer of funds, both from the same account. We're asking to take the money out of the deposition and transcripts fund. We're asking for the first amount to go into the, what I call the expert witness account. It's also known as the witness fees account. And that is in amount $7,220. That is so we can pay the psychiatrist that we had retained as an expert witness in a juvenile case where he was waived, he's charged with murder. So we retain an expert to help us defend our client. The second transfer that I'm asking for is also, again, from the transcripts and deposition fund, and I'm asking for a $7,000 transfer, and that would go to pay my paralegal, Lisa Morris, who is preparing or storing electronically the old public defender files. And Also, that would be the investigator / secretary fund. That fund also funds part-time investigators if our investigator has a conflict on a case. We are asking for those two transfers to occur. At the beginning of the year, we had $47,000 in the deposition and transcripts fund. If these transfers are approved tonight, that would leave us a balance of $26,000 and some odd dollars. I anticipate that will be enough for the remainder of the year, as we're at the halfway point or a little further of the year, and we have more than 50% of that fund remaining if these transfers are approved.
The request is to transfer the $7,220 from depositions and transcripts to witness fees, and then $7,000 from depositions and transcriptions to the investigator secretary fund.
Correct.
Any questions or comments? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Scott, a second from Mr. Connor to approve the following transfers within the Grant County Public Defender. $7,220 from depositions and transcripts to witness fees, $7,000 from depositions and transcriptions to investigator fund. Any questions or comments from the members? Public input? Roll call, please.
Scott.
Aye.
Connor.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Perez.
Aye.
Foley.
Yes.
Lemming.
Aye.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next item under new business, item I, County Area Plan Commission, Ryan Malone, with the transfer of appropriations and a salary ordinance amendment. And just for the record, none of the additional appropriations have been advertised, so we can't act on any additional.
Right.
Just so the members know. Good evening.
Good evening. You guys have the papers in front of you. This is gonna kinda, if you start getting confused, stop me and ask questions. So I'm gonna start off, one with a couple of our needs, which includes, we are looking at hiring a new attorney. Right now, we are currently paying, budgeted for $12,000 for our attorney. We would like to raise that to $20,000. We've been at $12,000 since 2014. And we got numbers from Kyle Persinger for the last 2 years. And he was 126 hours in 2021, 2022, 116 hours, which put him down about $95 an hour and 103 an hour. If we put those numbers against the $20,000 per year that we would like to pay, that raises him up between $160 and $165 per hour. So more into that range. The other, so that is part of the attorney part of it. The other part that we were talking about and asking for is a major litigation fund, which I believe the commissioners at this point are going to handle and actually come in and try to get a line item put together with the council.
They already have a legal
Oh,
account, they would just probably need to increase the appropriation.
okay. So Mark said he was going to handle that with the council, so that's kind of been taken care of. The second thing that we're looking at is with the raises that were given last year, both part-time employees got moved up to $12.70 per hour, but their overall budgets didn't get adjusted. So if we work the 28 hours per week times 52 hours per week, it puts us short roughly $9,249 for both of them to get through the year on part-time. So those are two of our needs, and I know we can't appropriate those, but what I'm hoping to do is, our other situation is our building inspector, as some of you know, was suspended without pay last December. And according to the county handbook, should those charges get dropped, he is allowed back pay. That back pay right now is currently at, I think you've got it for 17, but it's actually 18. It is at $18,452. The Area Plan Commission, we spoke to them about trying to get an end date or a termination date on Mr. Ellsworth, but right now we just voted on termination and had a 6-4-1 vote, and we needed 7 votes. So I'm 6 months without a building inspector currently. Should all of his charges get dropped, again, he is allowed that back pay. What I'm asking the council is, knowing that, is there a way that we could actually use his salary, knowing that possibly at some point in the future we may have to back pay him? If I can use that salary, that covers my part-time, that covers my attorney for the rest of this year, and it allows me to hire additional employee to get back up to full staff. So that's one ask. The other thing I'm hoping to do is I'd like to move my employees around, which the Area Plan Commission has already approved, and to take my code enforcement officer to the building inspector position, my code enforcement secretary to the code enforcement officer, which would then allow me to hire for a code enforcement secretary, which is currently part-time, which is a lot easier to find than trying to find a building inspector for $37,000. With that, again, well, that's kind of jumping ahead, but on the building inspector salary, again, if it's allowable to use that, that would solve a lot of the problems that I've got with $0 extra to the county, other than a possibility in the future of back pay. Any questions yet?
Keep going, then I'll summarize it for you.
So the other thing I want to do is I do want to promote within. I want to reallocate my employees, and with that, I'd like to also reallocate some of the salaries. What I'm hoping to do is for my executive assistant, I would like to raise her salary $2,000. For my building inspector, Nicole would be moving over as an equal pay with no raise. And she understands that, but that would actually take my building inspector position from $37,000 to $37,994. And then for my code enforcement position, I would actually lower that salary down to $35,000. So it would allow me to tier those salaries like I've been trying to do for 3 years without adding any extra money. So it'd be $113,000 to $113,000, so it's no change as far as the overall. And a big reason I'm wanting to do that, one, if you know or not, Brenda has been here 29 years, and she currently makes $8 more a week than the code enforcement officer. And on top of that, when Brenda does retire, the number one person to put in there would be Nicole, and it gives Nicole a little bit of incentive to move up. I think that's everything.
I know there's a lot to digest,
Yeah.
and, you know, without being able to do any additional appropriations, I really thought about, you know, what was the best way to tackle all this. Obviously, that, you know, this, when it comes to the employee handbook, you know, the employees are supposed to follow it, and this fellow has, you know, felony charges. And I've reached out to Justin and HR, I think there's gotta be a timeline of, you know, so many months that if, you know, 6 months you haven't, you know, reconciled your felony charges or whatever charges they are, then it'd be termination. That'd be one way to you know, move it in the future. I mentioned that to him, but I think to get your office squared away, I think we gotta create a new building inspector position at, you know, the current pay, and then leave the other position alone. Obviously, the area plan board is, you know, is still hired at this point. I think you could be legally both ways, have to pay out the money. I think you're gonna be out the money anyway, but I'm thinking, so you'd have an additional appropriation at some point to cover that salary, and then come back later with the shortfall as an additional appropriation as well. And obviously, if it's not used, you know, it goes back to the general fund. But I think there's a lot to all this, but I think if, you know, to get you up to where you have employed, you know, manpower, I think creating a new building inspector at that position, and then you'd be able to hire, you know, next pay or whatever immediately, and then we'll come back in August and take care of the additionals. That's my thought, but I know, I see where you're requesting some of the domino effect.
And I've got I've got applications out for a skilled position. I mean, a building inspector's 40,000 plus anywhere. So anyone I bring in, I'm gonna have to train, get certified. With Nicole has taken the ICC test and she only missed it by like 10 points. So, I mean, I've almost got her to her ICC certifications. So she's my easy up. And she works together well with Katie. So moving Katie over to that position, I know they'll work well together. And I believe Grace, who for the last 2 years, we've been trying to get Grace to a full-time position in that code enforcement secretary. She actually left in March for full-time, but she's miserable and wants to come back. So she would be a quick fix into the part-time position again. So I would have 3 individuals, basically with a code enforcement background, working together for training, and then me training Nicole. And we've got new software. We're getting ready. It's ready to go. We just have to get it up and running. Comprehensive plan coming, et cetera, et cetera. For this year through June 1st, we have done an estimated $21 million of residential construction in Green County with no building inspector. So my office is dying for the most part.
So how you giving building permits if you're not inspecting it?
Nicole and I.
So somebody is inspecting?
Yeah, we're doing 15 to 20. We're just not doing code enforcement. We got 4 houses. We got 4 buildings down so far this year where we had 9 last year. We've got, one of your papers is gonna show, we've only got 5 or 6 actually recorded. So I mean, right now code enforcement, we're not doing anything with. It's either Nicole out, me out, or both of us.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, I think that there's so much here. I think you've got to create, I mean, if manpower and the building inspector is a priority, we create a new position, amend the salary ordinance, create a new position for a building inspector, knowing that however the other employee pans out, and we're gonna cut that at some point.
Right.
You know, so we're gonna create this new position, new building inspector, and if you wanted to, you know, right now, you're at 37,000, correct? And you're saying you just want to go to 37,990?
Yeah, and then the 37 for building inspector, I'm actually knocking back to 35.
Okay.
So it was, if we move it around, it all comes out 113,000 to 113,000 if we tier it like I'd like to do.
Which I haven't really gave much thought to the tier, but. And then the other things you're asking for, we can't act on, so.
That's, like I said, that's what, I've got that salary there right now. If I can use that salary, I can do all the other stuff. If not, I'll have to come back, which is fine too. We had, Kyle actually gave us an opinion on it, and he said he felt that the lawsuit coming from that position would be low risk.
Or lawsuit, you mean for him to recover his salary?
Right.
Okay.
He had, at this point, we have not talked to him since February. And we've been trying to follow his case on my case, and it's, the lawyers meet and throw it out a month, the lawyers meet, throw it out a month. So, I mean, it could go on forever, but he went from calling us once a week to, I haven't heard from him in 4 months.
Angie, do you have anything you'd like to add? No?
So is there anything we can do as far as like, can they get a part-time person hired based off of this? Or there's nothing we can do?
I mean, you want to hire a part-time building
Well,
inspector?
wasn't that, no, wasn't that something you had said, you had a part-time person that had quit and wants to come back? That
Well, if I can shift everyone up, move Nicole up and Katie up, then I'm hiring for a part-time code enforcement officer instead of a building inspector.
The dominoes again.
Yeah, why can't we simply approve that request? Any reason why we couldn't?
Where technically we still have an employee as a building inspector.
The suspended employee.
Yeah, so the only way to.
Yeah, then I agree with you,
The
it has to
only
be
way
a new position unless you vacate it.
Yeah, so the only way to do it correct, I think you'd have to create a new building inspector, and then will allow you to do your domino effect.
Okay.
I would so move.
No.
Next time we advertise, that'd be a new position. Or can we do it now?
You have to advertise a new
Yeah,
position.
it's a salary,
Yeah.
but you're right.
Yeah. But yeah, the salary ones don't need to be advertised.
So we can create a new position and let you down that.
Are you creating this building inspector at a salary of 35,000?
30, well, that would be, it would be for
If
Nicole,
you're
it'd
doing the domino,
be 37,900.
the building inspector to 37,994.
And
And I
then,
would make a motion to approve the creation of a new building inspector position of 37,994.
And then,
Allow the domino effects.
And once the decision is made, just, or, I don't think
That we have to act on, and just deal with that when it comes up.
And an effective date.
And then what?
the next
An
page.
effective date. The next pay period beginning date would be July 3rd.
Add that to the motion.
second.
Okay, I have a
Who's
motion.
so that, does that do all of the pay scale
Yes.
and the position?
Well,
So that takes,
right now, the motion is just this 37,994. If you want to adjust the other pay, we can talk about it.
But it has to be advertised, right?
No, he did say and allow the. So if you want that in two separate motions.
Those salaries will remain the same, so that doesn't require any.
I mean, dollar-wise, it'll be 113,000 to 113,000.
He's saying Domino's is people, which we don't have to do that anymore because he's allowed to.
Individually, it's changing the overall amount.
The amount, the salary
Yeah, by
amounts.
individual, but
We
not
need
by
to amend
position.
the motion to make the, do you want to amend the motion to make the salary amounts, what he's requesting? So it'd be, code enforcement officer would be at what salary?
35. Building inspector would be at 37,994. Executive assistant would be at 40,409.
Can I say that executive assistant?
40,409.
Okay, is there a second on that amendment? Already got it. Call your second. Okay, so we got amended motion. Right. So the motion that it's amended is to, code enforcement officer at the 35, the executive assistant at the 40,409, and then the building inspector at the 37,994.
And keep the current building inspector position at 37,000, the one that's not being touched.
Okay, this is amendment to motion.
Not really, I think we were building the motion as we went along.
This is what I called you last week.
Okay.
I'm just clarifying here, I wanna make sure that we all
I'm not
understand.
repeating. I couldn't possibly.
Okay, we'll do it for a motion, that's what he's saying.
We're not doing
Okay.
the original.
So I will. So your motion is to create a line item for a new building inspector. To change the executive assistant pay from 38,409 to 40,409, the building inspector salary from 37 to 37,994, and code enforcement from 37,994 to 35,000.
Is that my motion?
No, because the position that you're creating is gonna be the 37,994. That's the new position. The existing building inspector position that's not gonna be touched is 37,000.
Okay.
Okay, let me try this.
I'll do this. I'll do it for you. Okay, we're gonna create a new building inspector position at the 37,994. We're gonna move the code enforcement to the 35,000 and the executive assistant to the 40,409.
Yes.
All that's effective next pay.
That's right. July the 3rd. Sure. Any other questions or comments from the members?
You repeat that?
Word for word. Please go back. Let's get
We're
rid of
building the motion as we go. The new point and determine.
The building inspectors.
Get it? Public input? You're at to come to the podium and state your name.
Ed Hartman. I have a question. Who is going to be the code enforcement officer? Is she part-time or full-time?
She's part-time right now.
So you'll be moving a position from a part-time to a full-time position.
Right.
That should be an addition somewhere.
Your plan already approved the personnel moves.
Okay.
So, in addition to,
Well, Eric Clan.
they've got to do the salaries.
Eric Clan turned down terminating the building inspector that you currently have, right?
We're creating
This isn't touching that position.
Yeah, I know.
And then,
Eric
and
Clan
then,
didn't approve.
and then a motion was put forth to do exactly what I'm asking to do, and to allow me to do anything to get us
On a temporary basis,
No.
to move people around.
Temporary was not part of it.
the responsibilities.
Well, you can watch the video, Mr. Hartman.
Okay, so we'll go on.
I'm saying
That's
there's
our
something
motion.
wrong.
Yes.
Okay. Any more public input? Roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Perez,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Poling,
Yes.
Lemming,
Aye.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Motion carries. All the additionals, we'll have to come back in August.
Can I ask by chance, since we're up to July 1st and not going to have an attorney, I do have, with having $6,000 currently in the legal budget for the rest of the year, and us having to have a contract signed by July 1st, is there a chance as far as doing the raise for the attorney?
So
I've got the money to pay him for third quarter, and then I would come back for the additional appropriation, but then we could have contracts signed, so I've got a lawyer come July 1st.
I mean, the additional appropriation is not advertised, so you have to.
No, I would come back for that. I've got enough money, if you would allow, I have to, for the raise, do I have to have that? It's not asking for any more money.
You're saying you're not asking for any additional money, but you're asking to amend the salary or, well, it's contractual services, right?
Okay.
I don't think that's our call.
Yeah.
I think it's your $6,000 to spend on an attorney. We just add and subtract from the money you have available. It's already in your
Okay.
budget.
Well, and I don't want to come back and then you tell me no. I gotta tell Mr. Wakefield, sorry.
As long as you're neutral on your funds at the end of the budget.
I'd have to get him up, I need 10, and he's got, we've only got 6, so I need 10 for the rest of the year. So I'd have to come back for 4,000.
See if he'll do it for 6.
Well, he said he
Not
would.
for 1.
It's just, all of this stuff is
Well,
like.
he said he would, why are you asking us for it?
Because everyone else turned us down over money.
Well, if he already said he
He's
would
the
do
one guy
it,
who said as long as we'll fight to get something done.
None of that's our,
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
Wake might be, I mean, just, am I wrong, guys?
Nope.
So it's just a matter of, we're gonna sign a contract.
Yeah, the contracts would have to go through the commissioners too, I think.
And then come back for additional, for part-time and for a lawyer.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's.
I believe all contracts have to go through the commissioners.
Right.
Right? So, okay.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item, under new business, item J, IT Marcus Elliott with the additional appropriation within the general fund. This has been advertised.
Yes, it has.
Oh, so this one has, okay.
Yes, it
I was like, oh no.
I got you.
All right, hey, thanks again, gentlemen. So I'm here today for additional appropriation of $50,000 for my contractual services line item. Basically, the need for the additional funds came from 2 purchases this year. So the first one was for our new backup software for our new data center. So I believe I sent you gentlemen kind of a breakdown of all that stuff. So our current backup software is called Veeam. And basically we were paying around a little over $9,000 a year for that. So with the new backup software, it's actually a lot cheaper if we got a 5-year deal. So I went ahead and got a 5-year deal for that, and the total cost for the new software is $25,176.14 compared to what we were paying with Veeam, which would have been $46,344. And with the new software, it's fully compatible with our new data center, because basically we're going from VMware to Scale Computing, so there are 2 different platforms. So this ensures that, you know, when we go to recover data, we'll be able to recover data. The second piece was for the courthouse camera system. As you all know, we got the court reform grant, and that grant, they basically covered the cost of the actual equipment. So all the cameras and and the viewing stations, and there's an iPad for a checkout system, or a check-in, checkout system that we're gonna implement. It would included 40 cameras. The existing system is an old CCTV system, and currently there's 20 cameras on there. It does have the capability for more, but several cameras have stopped working. So we're looking to, get all that upgraded. And but all that, the grant basically saved the county $78,742.86. However, as part of the grant, we in IT paid $40,470 from our contractual services item, just so we ensured that we got the grant, because Chris Cunningham said when you put a little bit of money in the game, it helps ensure that you get it. So that's pretty much the gist of it. Answer any questions you gentlemen have, or?
So on the first part, the $9,000, when does that one expire?
Beam, it actually expired back in March.
And then for the court reform, for the cameras for the court reform grant, how come the cameras were the cameras included in the grant?
The actual equipment for the cameras, yes, was, but there's licensing you have to buy, and that includes your maintenance, support, and updates for the cameras. So that's basically what we paid for the $40,000.
The two software and totals up to more than 50. But you're saying you got there's money in there that appropriated, or?
What?
And
yeah, because the way I calculated it, so basically if I get the additional appropriation for the 50,000, I have basically 4 items that are expected to come out this year. So it's basically 7 Office 365 bills, which happen monthly. We have the new website, which that's 3,000. Veteran specs, veteran software, that's $898 annually. Then we have our monthly FirstNet for hotspots. That's $226 a month. And the Office 365 is $5,648.64 a month. Okay. So my expected expenditure is $45,846. So, and currently I have, let's see here, $3,918.64 in my contractual.
Okay.
So if I hadn't spent that 40,000, I would have been about right on it.
There's no question about it, Marcus, that, and whether it's a grant, I mean, nothing on you, whether it's a grant or whether it's, additional opioid funding or whatever it is.
Right.
It always ends up it's free money, but it always ends up costing us more.
Right. And
so like now, that was great, all those cameras and things, but now we gotta,
Right. No, and you're absolutely right. And
it just seems that way with
everything.
And whether it's software, whatever's new comes with a fee.
Right.
And
and
it's back to, okay, now it needs updated.
Yeah.
It's
exactly. And the nice thing with these cameras is it's not like the sheriff's department system where you have storage and servers and stuff you have to maintain and pay a contract on those. Those are gone.
Yeah.
So you guys know how to work on these new ones?
The Verkada cameras, yes. We researched those. We actually first.
So is it true that you guys know about software but not the hard drives? You guys don't know how to deal with hard drives?
Well, they're 2 different platforms. So basically, the sheriff's department system, it's a whole entirely different thing than the camera system we got.
Now,
for the
here's my
courthouse.
question for you. Can
What's
we
that?
send you guys somewhere to get educated on these hard drives to save us money?
Yeah, but I mean, we don't have no time to do it, to work on
So you're
this.
that busy?
Yes.
Okay. So the request is for an additional appropriation within contractual services in the amount of $50,000. But you're saying, oh, the backup, yeah.
Yeah, the backup software, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
And just one thing I'd like to say, Chuck, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but there's only 3 techs, and that's including myself.
Yeah.
So.
How many times I'm in this building a day? And you don't even see me?
No.
Right. My whole point is, every time you come to this, it costs us thousands, tens of thousands. You guys gotta hire a guy to drill a hole and put a camera up. You can't do that?
No,
That's your job as IT, right?
We're IT, not electricians or, carpenter people.
Really?
Yes.
And we can't send you to school to do that job to save us money, the taxpayers' money.
I mean, it's a whole separate system for the camera stuff. It's a matter of manpower. Now, our department was a 4-person department. We cut it down to 3, and basically, me as the IT director, I help out with the help desk stuff. So, the whole idea was, to help save money in that regard. Now, if I get a 4th person, maybe we could have that person be dedicated to, the courthouse camera system.
Well, it seems like ever since I've been on this council, every time we talk about these cameras and all this stuff,
Yeah,
software. Hear me out
is-
for me, hear me out.
Yeah.
Every time I've been on this council, it's 50,000 or more money. And it don't make no sense to me. Cause I have cameras in my shops and all that, and I put them up.
Yeah, but it's a whole different scale.
But we can't send you guys to school to teach you this.
No,
No. Okay, that's all I need.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
So Marcus, for the 2024 budget for contractual services, what are you planning to do budget-wise? Are you increasing that line item by this amount, or what is your plan?
No, No, I'm not. So, probably, because what we'll have to do, I'll have to work with the commissioners. So my idea for, because obviously this is gonna get us good for 5 years. So my idea is basically, since we're expanding this camera system out, would be to have like a camera, line item for that. But we don't have to worry about it for 5 years. So my goal isn't to increase my contractual. I'll be able to reduce it a little bit because I won't have to pay, my backup software for a while as well.
I will say, I've asked Angie to send out an email. A lot of the departments have contractual services. A lot of times we don't know what the schedules are. And I've asked that when we do the budget process, that we have the schedules so we know, is there enough money or not. And then, it seems like there's always something coming up that's unaccounted for. You probably should never be that way, but if you have the schedules and if you know what's out there. I mean, things come up, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying in general, county-wide.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
So, just another tool maybe that we could put the budget together a little more efficiently, I guess. Any other questions or comments?
So there's no money to transfer?
No, not without affecting any of my other line items.
I'd entertain a motion.
Didn't at the last meeting, we just had to pay 53,000 for backup software that Commissioner Bardsley brought to us?
Stanley for the jail.
Okay. That's 100 grand.
And one thing I would like to mention, we in IT were not involved in that project.
No, you weren't. You got left out of that.
Yeah, very good.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Perez, a second from Mr. Connor to approve additional appropriation within the amount of $50,000 to contractual services within the IT department. Any other questions or comments from the members? Public input? Roll call, please.
Perez,
Aye.
Connor,
Yes.
Scott,
No.
Hicks,
Yes.
Poling,
No.
Fleming,
No.
Middlesworth.
Yes. Is it 3-3 or 4-3?
4-3.
Second reading.
Yep. You have to come back, Marcus.
Okay.
Unanimous.
Yeah, well, I will be. Thank you.
I removed item K. The next item is the compliance with the statement of benefits, the Dunham Leisure Corporation CF1. This has been going on for a long time, but it's pretty routine. It's just our approval that they are within compliance.
We basically just accept.
Correct.
I make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Connor, a second from Mr. Scott to approve the Dunham Leisure compliance with the statement of benefits on the real estate improvements. Any other questions or comments from the members? Public input? Roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Scott,
Aye.
Hicks,
Yes.
Perez,
Aye.
Poling,
Yes.
Fleming,
Aye.
Middlesworth.
Yes. That's all the new business. Is there any old business? I didn't know what the will of this body is, but I was wanting to cancel the July meeting. Didn't seem like it was gonna be pretty short, but after tonight, there's a lot of things that can be on that agenda.
The second readings. Second readings.
Yeah, I mean, do you wanna proceed with July, or would you like to cancel it? I have mixed feelings.
I'm good with it. If you want to cancel it, we can wait and deal with everything in August.
Where's my new one here?
You tell me.
I don't want to necessarily cancel, but if we do, it backs us up right to budget, so we might have better pictures of some of the implications of those decisions. At the same time, I don't want the department to wait longer, but
No, you only have 1 month to before budget. I guess we'll just keep the routine meeting and, is it Wednesday, July the 19th? Any committee reports? Meeting adjourned. You have anything?
Do we have the signed resolution and signed ordinance?
Or we-